Hello, dear passengers. This is your captain speaking, and we are about to take off for another episode of Adventurina. Hello, what's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Adventurina. Hope everyone's week is going well. Hope February is off to a good start. At the time this episode is going to be released, your captain will be in Bolivia, hopefully, putting miles and miles on these poor feet. And because I'm going to, tell you everything about my first South American experience in the next episode, now we can cover some other stuff. A lot of people hit me up after the episode is traveling a privilege or a priority, and I'm honestly really happy that, everyone got what I was trying to say and obviously agreed. And hey, if you don't, that's okay. We can think the same way about everything. So looked like, many of you really enjoyed the Q&A episode, and since I got, so much positive reaction, I can't really think of a better way to spend this episode than just answering at least a few more of the piled up questions in my Adventurina inbox. But stay until the end of this episode because I will also go through some interesting things that I came across on the internet. So let's get into it. Okay, I'm starting in the order of receiving. Damn, this one is from November. Shame on me. Anyway, first question. I work a corporate job and we have a 4-day week. Damn, lucky you. So basically, I'm off 3 days a week and every weekend is a long weekend for me. I'm based in Europe where traveling is very affordable thanks to low-cost companies. I am financially stable and definitely can afford going somewhere out of the country at least twice a month. Damn. But I have no one to come with me. My friends are either working on the weekend or can't afford to come with me. I have tried to offer to cover some expenses for them, but they don't feel comfortable and reject my invites. Are there any groups that I can join for female trips, or how should I overcome the anxiety of solo traveling? Great question. And first of all, congrats on landing a job with 4-day week. Happy for you. Let us know which country you're located in and, if your company is looking for people. Just kidding. But we can promote on the podcast and, get more people for this company. I'm just kidding. But seriously, that's probably everyone's dream, to have 3 days off every week. And actually, not just to have 3 days off, but to have them in a row and for them to always be fixed and on the weekend. I mean, what more can you possibly ask for? Well, I guess you can ask for someone to share this free time with you, which is exactly, how your question sounds to me. I'm actually super happy that we get to start with the topic about solo traveling. I feel like it's been a minute since we have talked about my favorite solo trips, or as I call them, soul trips, because yes, they're trips for the soul. I will start from this. Just knowing how many people dream about your current situation should be an initial good motivation for you. You have the dream schedule, and you mentioned that, finances are good too. So that's a perfect recipe for traveling. You always know your availability and you can afford going to places. So why stay home? Like, to be able to go abroad twice in the month is amazing. And living in Europe, I don't think you mentioned where exactly. Cannot really see it from your form. But living in Europe with free weekends and access to so many cheap options is just, it's perfect. That's what it is. I'm sure it's overwhelming and you can even get a little anxious, but you just have to push yourself a little bit. That's my opinion. There's a first time for everything, and when things are new and unknown, it's normal for us to feel a little anxious or nervous, but that shouldn't stop you from, doing those things. Just think of it this way. We are at the beginning of the year. If you had started traveling already in January, and you would still be able to travel twice a month, like you said, this is 24 trips by the end of 2025. 24. Like, Maybe with good planning, even 24 countries. Like, why would you hold yourself from the amazing things you can see and experience? Yes, there is no one to come with you, but that doesn't mean you should stay home and wait for someone to be off or to be ready to splurge. It's totally fine if people are not available or don't want to spend the same amount of money on traveling as you. As much as we love our friends, some of them have different priorities, and that's okay. We're kind of going back to the thing we were talking about last week, but yeah, I'm sure once you go on a trip by yourself and see how much you can do for 3 days, and you know how fun it is to wander the streets by yourself, you know no other way. Like, confidence will come with the experience, just like with everything else, but you gotta allow yourself first to take the risk. I would say pick a close destination. Again, I don't see where in Europe you are located exactly, but take a trip in your country. Go on a plane and fly to the other side of the country, for example, or maybe drive. Just, start with going out of your comfort zone with small steps, little by little. This weekend, you can go on a road trip, maybe for a day. In a few weeks, maybe you can fly somewhere in the country, just for a night. And maybe next month, you can book a weekend abroad. And trust me, a harbor is safe for a ship, but that's not what the ship is made for, So you gotta go sail. And you have Europe in the palm of your hand. Take advantage of it. I would say start watching videos from any destination. There's so many female solo travelers, especially on Instagram. Like, everyone shares their experience. Often women would even rank the countries based on where they felt the safest and the opposite. There is so much information out there. I am in a few female solo travelers groups on Facebook. If you use Facebook, you should join them too. Some travel influencers organize group female trips to certain destinations a few times per year, so that would be dope. And I'm sure if you join, you feel way more confident and open for traveling by yourself, or maybe as part of another program. I believe Kirsten, the Blondie Abroad, she organizes some of these tours. There's a girl I follow on Instagram who takes girls to Morocco, I think. Not sure what her name is, I gotta look it up. But maybe you can join like a mixed group. It doesn't have to be only females if you're not, strictly female oriented. Not sure what your preferences are, but mixed group can be an option too. My personal advice for a first solo trip would be pick a very safe destination, a place which is known for tourists feeling safe, especially women. Go there and, stick to crowded places, book a place to stay around the touristy parts. So, you feel surrounded by people the whole time. Also get back to your accommodation maybe before it's dark outside and just get used to being aware of your surroundings in a strange place. The next time you travel, maybe you can start going off the beaten paths. Maybe you will, stay later and get home after the sunset by a cab. Maybe you use public transport to go a little further away. But again, small steps, if you feel like it's not your thing completely, just don't force yourself that much. I travel by myself often and I still never neglect safety, no matter how many times I've been alone somewhere, no matter how familiar with the destination I am, even if I have been there a few times. I wouldn't neglect safety. I wouldn't pretend that I'm, too good to be careful. You always have to remember you're by yourself and you don't have to put yourself into dangerous situations. That's rule number one. Always be aware of your surroundings, not to the point of getting paranoid and constantly looking around yourself. Just know what's around you, turn off your headphones, and please, absolutely no drinking by yourself. Some places in Europe are known for their wines or different local drinks, and I know it's tempting, especially as, cuisine is a huge part of each nationality, but a solo trip is not a great time for you to be wasted, unless you have extremely high tolerance and you can chug in a bottle of vodka, get up and go home, but I somehow doubt it. And yeah, let us know if you have decided where you're going. We'll be here keeping our fingers crossed and, excited to hear details, and good luck. Oh, and go listen to the episode Solo Trips Equal to Soul Trips from season 1. I think you're gonna find it really helpful. Okay, next question. I love traveling, but I suck at planning. I think part of me doesn't like planning because I love just walking around and seeing things with no plan. I don't want to have a specific hour to be somewhere, I want to take my time. But sometimes I finish my vacation and I learn that I missed something in the city I just came back from. Oh, jeez. How can I still take my time but have some kind of plan? Oh, yeah, that's what I call trying to find the golden middle, which is very, very hard. Going somewhere with no plan is pretty adventurous, kind of free of stress, because you don't deal with reservations, bookings, and investigating the map. I'm sure it's nice to just walk and come across things. I almost never experience it, but I'm sure it's nice. I have friends who prefer to travel this way. They just book the flights and the hotel, and that's it. The rest they will figure out on the spot. On the other hand, we have cycles like me who need to have the whole day planned with clear activities and time frames, which doesn't necessarily mean that we don't get to walk around and explore on the go. We just kind of always know where we are or what we can see in the area, I would say. We are just familiar with the destination. That's what it is. Does this take a little bit of the romantic feeling of arriving at a completely unknown place? Yeah, for sure. The same way not being prepared kind of takes from your experiences because, just like you said, you didn't know that you could do or see something, which pretty much means that we can't have it all, just like everything else. You just have to decide for yourself which type of traveler you want to be. The one who wants to wander the streets and explore everything as a surprise, or the one that is aware of what and where to see. Keep in mind that you can balance between both based on a destination. Let's say you go to a city. Yeah, it would be cool to walk around, get lost, and see some stuff with no plan. But if you're going to a national park, for example, you can't really rely on just walking out and taking the first direction you decide on. There's gonna be some kind of research, even the most basic one, to at least point you towards a hike or something. Or maybe you can still plan a little bit, but only a couple of things for the day, and the rest can still be, walking around and leaving the rest to the destiny. I'm curious actually, since I don't really travel this way, the way to just go and explore without any preparation. I'm curious, and please, guys, write in with your thoughts. Do you research anything before you travel? For example, country traditions or some historical facts, or is this also something that you guys get to learn there? In other words, how much or how little do you really know about the destination itself before going there? I'm just curious, as you know, in my case, for example, I read a lot in advance. First, to get familiar with the culture and, to learn more about traditions, but also to kind of get myself excited about the destination. I feel like a huge part of the excitement comes from the expectations because of things we read or we saw on the internet, which of course can also be disappointing in some cases. But I would definitely be more excited, for example, that I'm going to Bolivia because I know the biggest salt flats in the world are there, than if I just knew Bolivia is a country in South America with great nature and amazing food, for example. And of course, that was just an example. I'm aware that when people decide to go to a country, they do it because they know of something there that they're interested to see 90% of the time, this being a national landmark, whatever it is. So yeah, if I were you and I loved going places with no plan but still wanted to not miss cool stuff, I would maybe just take a look and have a couple of book things to see how I would feel about knowing that I am not just walking around with no goal, but I actually have to be somewhere. Maybe you like it. Who knows? What if next time you get obsessed with your itinerary and you start planning every day from morning to evening? The line is very, very thin, my friend. Very, very thin. Okay, next one. Maybe the last one, so we have time for the other thing I wanted to do. What's the thing that you save the most from, and what's the hack for it? Oh, that's airplane tickets, 100%. This is like 90% of the time the biggest expense of a trip, and the more you reduce it, the better. My goal is to find the best deal on airfare and, just have more to spend once I land. I always go with a cheaper airline. I wouldn't pay $100 or $200 more just because Delta, for example, is a better airline. Yes, it is better than some other airlines, but what matters to me is to get safely from point A to point B. If I'm allowed to bring the luggage I need and if, they will take me there on time, I'm on board, like literally and not literally. This applies though for flights up to 5-6 hours the most, I would say. Everything longer, I am willing to spend more just for the sake of the comfort that, we all need on longer flights. Also, I'm okay with paying for a window seat on long flights because I do need my view. I'm sorry. But in general, if I don't buy my flights with miles and points, I'm just aiming for the cheapest. And based on the dates I have, and if I'm flexible, sometimes I get to fly even cheaper. Even a day makes a big difference sometimes, especially if it's a weekday and weekend. For the last 2 years and a half, even more maybe, I have barely paid full price for, I would say, 3 or 4 of my trips. Everything else I have covered with miles. I've flown to Washington, D.C. round trip for $11, round trip San Antonio for $11. I went to Alaska last year for $12. I went to Las Vegas to see Usher in November for $10 or $11, I believe, and more and more. As long as you know how to use your credit cards and how to get the maximum from them, you can decrease your travel expenses a lot. Like years ago when Airbnb still had the promo of invite a friend and get $25, I made money that covered half of my accommodation in Greece. It was awesome. I'm pretty sure that they don't have it anymore. Maybe they have some other rewards program, but yeah, those were good times. There are many small things, even habits that bring us extra cash and, contribute to our travel funds. I sell a decent amount of things on Marketplace, for example, from time to time, and I just put the money aside so I can generate small income that will cover either a tour or some kind of activity during my trips. And of course, depending on what you sell, you may be making way more money than just cash to cover an activity. Maybe you decided to get rid of your couch, I don't know, and you get a ticket to Thailand with the money, I don't know. Go for it if that's how you feel. Okay, time for the second part of this episode. I came across some very interesting travel facts that I had never heard of. So I was thinking maybe today we can spend some time going through those, and I'll be curious to hear from people from these places and countries. So if you happen to listen and we're talking about your country, please write in and let me know if that's 100% true, and give us your honest local opinion of how legit those things are, because I always prefer to hear from people who live in the country of interest than just to open the internet and read some random info. Okay, the first thing that I read was, and again, I had never heard of that until yesterday, a Greek wedding custom is for people to spit on the bride at weddings. Like, what? I want to know what kind of spitting we're talking about, okay? Because I'm Bulgarian, we share a border with Greece, and I have never heard of that. But also in Bulgaria, we have this custom that if you talk like very kindly about someone, if you're talking about their success or maybe beauty, for example, we spit on them. So they don't get casted with a spell. And I'm not even joking. Like, if you are very good looking and people constantly tell you that in Bulgaria, there's a belief that these people do not want the best for you, if I can say that. So they have the so-called bad eyes, and they can cast a spell over you by pretending they admire your beauty or success while they're actually jealous of you. I don't know if that made any sense. That's the easiest way to explain it. And it's mostly old people doing it. So when you give someone a compliment, they spit on you. But it's more like they just pretend to spit on you. Like, they just make the sound and movement with their mouth, but there is no actual saliva going out. This is too crazy to explain. But yeah, I'm curious if, the Greek custom is something similar because let's be honest, often we would read something and it's most of the time highly exaggerated. So I want to hear from my Greek listeners if there are any. Tell me more about this custom. Is it similar to the Bulgarian thing? Like, how much spinning exactly is involved? Like, just tell me everything. Okay, another thing I read was quite ridiculous, and I don't say it to offend a culture or nationality or anything. It's just a little insane. So, my Indian listeners, here we go. I know I have some Indian listeners. I've seen my stats. So, tell me, is this true? And please give me some details. There's a custom in India called baby tossing, where parents throw their infants off a temple balcony and people, called catchers on the ground, catch the babies with a blanket. I have so many questions. First, which floor are we on? Like, how tall is that building? Second, is there a life insurance required? I don't know, like throwing a baby through the balcony? I don't know. I've always thought the spirit of a baby's life is the most fragile one and the one we need to protect them the most. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a parent, so I might be wrong. So just asking. But please, Adventurous from India, write in and tell me more about how legit this custom is. Have any of you been thrown as a baby through the balcony? Like, do you have videos or photos? Like, I'm just excited to hear and maybe hopefully see a video. And let's do one more before we wrap up the episode. In Middle Eastern culture, complimenting someone about something may result in them offering that thing to you. For example, if you were to compliment someone for a watch, they may take it off and give it to you. Like, this is way too generous to be believed, and it's definitely something that people will take advantage of if it's true. I want to hear from you in the Middle East. No country in the Middle East specifically is mentioned, so I guess it applies to the region. I want to hear from you and this statement. Like, to what extent is that true? I can totally see if we're talking about food, for example. Like, you're eating something and someone compliments it. Although now when I say it, it kind of sounds ridiculous because no one usually comments on other people's food. But I guess it would make sense with, something small and not valuable. Like, I cannot really imagine someone taking off their dress and giving it to me after I said, "Oh my God, I love your dress." If it actually happened, I'm going straight to the marina and I'm going to make sure every person with a nice yacht receives a compliment from me, if you know what I mean. So yeah, guys from these countries, Greece, India, and the Middle East region, do your homework, please. Hit me up with your messages and let me know about these so-called travel facts that I just read. Like, I'm super curious to hear from you. I want the information from the source. And with that, I want to thank you guys again for listening and stay tuned for my next episode where I'm going to tell you everything about Bolivia and my experience there. So dream, play, and conquer, and bon voyage!